Every single chapter in the textbook that we use will have an opening question. And then there's a segment in the chapter called Evidence-Based Economics that analyzes that question. In this particular chapter, we will look at the question of what is the cost of using Facebook. Well, you might say initially it's free, I don't pay a charge. That is true. But there is a very substantial cost, and that is the cost of your time. And so we associate with that a concept called opportunity cost I'll get to in a moment. So the cost of spending 1 hour per day on Facebook multiplies a reasonable after-tax wage for, say, a 16 to 24-year-old student by the number of hours on Facebook per day and by the number of days in a year. So suppose the after-tax wage is $10 per hour. You spend an hour per day every single day for the 365 days per year, and that comes to $3,650. We'll get to that more of analysis of that by looking at the nature of trade-offs and budget constraints. So in order to get one thing, we must give up something else. And we look at this graphically with a trade-off concept using a budget line that shows all the combinations of goods that are affordable with one's current income. The two easiest budget constraints to think about involve dollars and hours. So suppose $100 could be spent on smartphone apps or food, and 24 hours in a day could be allocated to sleeping, studying, exercising, or other activities. If you can exactly afford something, then you have a binding budget constraint. Whereas if something is affordable and you still have something left over, that budget constraint is called non-binding. Now, let's look at a formal definition of opportunity cost. This is one of the most important principles that we deploy in both ECON 1010 and 2020. For every option chosen, there is at least one option not chosen, and we refer to the best of these foregone options as opportunity cost. And it's often useful to use the value of the best alternative foregone. And if we conservatively value a set of hours spent on one activity, we can imagine those hours spent, say, on a part-time job, earning the going wage. We rack and stack by using this method of calculating opportunity cost, comparing all our options, and calculating our net benefit. That's our benefits minus our costs, and we call this cost-benefit analysis. So to compare two or more alternatives, we identify all the relevant costs and benefits, compute the net benefit for each option, then identify the alternatives with the highest net benefit. Maximizing the net benefit is equivalent to optimizing. Now let's go into the OneNote notebook. This is the OneNote notebook for the first chapter. All of you should have access to this. If you don't and have questions about how to gain access, please let me know as soon as possible. This is the structure of each of the chapter notes. You have a section called Key Ideas, which matches what is in the textbook. An introduction about what the materials to be covered. In this instance, every first chapter out of or preceding the next block is listing here a summary of the follow-on 5 chapters in the block. We have 3 blocks, 5 chapters per block for a total of 15 chapters in this course. Here you see the opening question, some summary information about the evidence-based economics issue at hand for the chapter, and break down here in outline form the various components to the content of the chapter. So what are some of the choices you made today leading up to this minute? So you may have had breakfast, you may have attended class today, transportation, other things. I'd like you to jot down some of the things that you may have done. And so by doing so, you can get a sense of the various choices that you made versus the alternatives that you could have made. And here I'd like you to think about better understanding about the nature of economic agents. What different types of economic agents does one find at a college or university? I've jotted down a few things. The institution, usually a nonprofit, various schools or divisions, departments, faculty, students, administrators, such as president, provost, deans, support staff. And as you can see, I've mentioned all of these particular items before, but this is in more detail what you see in the outline. In the future videos, I will not cover all the items in the outline. I will highlight some of the most important things. I wish for you to read carefully each of these chapter notes, and included in these chapter notes are some prompting exercises. For instance, this, and I'm going to leave this blank. I'd like you to, on your own, jot these things down. Each of these chapter notes are interactive, and you can type away at this, and all of your comments are instantly saved. So, first exercise is make a list of real-world constraints that makes choices interesting. For instance, constraints might be financial, just $20 in my wallet, or chronological, just 24 hours until a final exam, or physical, you can't dunk a basketball, or legal, you can't buy ecstasy at CVS drugstore. Social, shunned for non-conformance. Spiritual, it's against my religion. Mental, can't understand phrenology. Psychological, ethical, guilt-based. Cultural differences also go a long way in explaining why people from different backgrounds may act differently in a given situation. And yet, everyone may be perfectly rational. Another exercise. Make a list of all the things one could be doing right now instead of sitting in the classroom or listening to this video. As you can see, all of this is detailed information of what I've gone through. And then you can see here is a section, the last section, called Problems. You may want to pause this video and review the notes yourself and try to answer these problems. Here are the answers to these problems. For number one, how does microeconomics differ from macroeconomics? The answer is D. Microeconomics is the study of how individuals, households, firms, and governments make choices, while macroeconomics is the study of the economy as a whole. The three principles of economics include optimization, equilibrium, and empiricism. B. Equilibrium describes a situation where no one would benefit from changing his or her behavior. Empiricism describes a situation where economists use data to analyze what is happening in the world. And optimization describes a situation where people weigh costs and benefits when making a decision. And then, of course, making the best choice by racking and stacking the net benefits and choosing the choice that has the highest net benefit. Suppose there are three activities in which you could participate. The opportunity cost of the first activity is missing 3 hours of work. The opportunity cost of the second activity is missing a concert that you have tickets to. The opportunity cost of the third activity is missing the afternoon nap you take every day. Given this information, for which of these activities would you be able to compare opportunity cost? You can compare all of the activities after you translate all the missed activities into dollar amounts. Which of the following is not an example of causation? It is driving without car insurance will with certainty lead you to getting into an accident. This concludes the video for Chapter 1. Please contact me if you have any questions about the course or this particular chapter.